Continuing on with our Blueberry Lemon Cider, we're going to be racking it into secondary, stabilizing the cider, performing an initial tasting, and making some adjustments based on our initial tasting. All right, I'm opening this up. Smells very strongly of blueberries. Go ahead and put this in an angle, being careful not to disturb the leaves at the bottom, and going out and taking a sample. So it's looking like we're at 0.998 on the gravity. Right. Set our hydrometer. Want to see from the side? Look at how wonderful of a color this is. That is beautiful, beautiful color. On the nose, kind of smells a little bit of blueberry and stone fruit. Kind of like a plum, blueberry and plum type of vibe over here. Not pure blueberry, but it's blueberry and something else. So I'm gonna give it a taste. It's pretty good. It's a very mellow cider. Nothing's really coming through punching for a flavor. Let me give another taste. I want this to have a good amount of acid to it because part of this is blueberry and lemon for this cider. So I want the lemon presence to come through. And I did get a little bit of acid on the back end. I'm going to try and see if I can get a little bit of acid on a little bit more on this time. Yeah, it's coming through. I think that one of the adjustments I'm going to do in secondary over here, while I stabilize this and put it into secondary to allow it to clear, is I'm going to add about 5 grams of citric acid to kind of give this a little bit more bright punch to it and to really enhance that blueberry presence here. So we're going to rack this from our fermenter over here into our 5-gallon vessel that we have down here for aging. And while we're doing that, we're going to go ahead and stabilize it too by adding potassium metabisulfate. We're going to be adding 3 Camden tablets for 5 of these is about 75 parts per million in a 5-gallon batch. So if we add 3 of them, it'll be just over, so 75 divided by 5 is 15, and then so 15 per tablet, 15 part per million per tablet per 5 gallons would be, this is 45 parts per million, which should be plenty to sterilize, or to not sterilize, but to prevent yeast reactivation. For our K-sorbate, we're going to be adding 5 teaspoons of K-sorbate, and that'll be, 5 half teaspoons of K-sorbate, so that's going to be 2.5 teaspoons potassium sorbate. We have our slurry here of potassium metabisulfate, potassium sorbate, and citric acid. We have our sanitized funnel. We're just going to go ahead and dump this into our carboy. Get this out of the way. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and begin racking. If you never racked something before, it's a relatively easy process to do. The process is basically you're going to create a vacuum from a point of lower elevation to a point of higher elevation, and you're going to basically create a siphon and allow gravity to pull the liquid down via vacuum action from here to here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put this hose into the bottom over here. Just set it into the bottom of this jar. You want to set it a little bit more than you think you should, because as we do this, it's going to create a kind of an action where it starts to create pressure on here, and you don't want to have it come away on you. So you're going to stick it into the vessel, and you're going to take 1 plunge out, big plunge, and then you're going to do 1 plunge in, and that should start your siphon. If that doesn't start your siphon, do it 1 more time, and if that doesn't work, you might have to take a look at your siphon to make sure you have any cracks or holes or leaks within the seal. Auto siphon should start within the 1st or 2nd plunge. You don't want to continually plunge an auto siphon, because that can lead to a point where you're actually introducing oxygen into it. It is possible to create a siphon with your mouth alone. I prefer this. It seems better choice, but we just passed by the 4-gallon mark on our carboy down here. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a tilt over like this to direct the juice towards the front of it so we can kind of get all of our juice out of here. because the head pressure of a fluid gets lower as the level of it gets lower, it's going to start to flow less and less fast as you get up towards the down towards the end of your 5-gallon carboy. Come for the cider, stay for the fluid dynamics lessons. All right, we are very close to our 5-gallon mark on our carboy. If you weren't aware that there are gallon marks in your carboy, you should take a look at it next time and see what it looks like when you're filling it up. There we go. See all that air coming? Now we're going to go ahead and gently remove this. Gently remove this tube. And let it drain a little bit into here. And we're going to lift it up and set it into our fermenter. This is how we can keep ourselves from getting a bunch of fluid that's going to stain our floors or stain our clothing all over the place. Just nice, gentle action when you're doing this. So now we have our filled carboy. It looks like we extracted a little bit past 5 gallons of fluid. This is a 5-gallon mark up here. From the taste, it tasted pretty good from that first initial taste. So hopefully when I check back in a couple of days on this, it'll taste a little bit more bright because of that citric acid addition. And it'll be ready to transfer into a keg. But I'll see you guys in a couple of days. It'll be like seconds to you, but it'll be a couple of days to me. So we're going to be making our blueberry syrup for our blueberry lemon cider. This is going to be a relatively simple process, but it might be something you haven't seen before. So I'm going to go ahead and detail how to do it in full. So we're going to be doing something that's referred to as a cold maceration. That's when we do a juice extraction at cold temperature rather than at a high temperature. With anything that contains pectin, if you do a heat-based maceration, it's going to start to set the pectin, and it's going to basically make it so that your finished product is going to be cloudy. This basin jar has been sterilized. I boiled it in hot water, and we're going to go ahead and put in some blueberries. These will start to occupy less space as they get extracted. So this was 12 ounces of berries, and this appears to be probably going to be a third of this bag for a total of 16 ounces total of berries into here. Now that we have our blueberries in there, the next step is to add pectic enzyme. I'm going to be adding a teaspoon and a half of pectic enzyme to the top of it. Close up our mason jars and close this up. And we're just going to let this sit inside a very cold place, not freezing, but in a cold place like a refrigerator, for about 7 days. And it's going to allow this juice to extract naturally. I'll add berries back into here to fill it up as the volume of this goes down over time, because naturally juice is going to get extracted, and then the volume is going to, the juice is going to occupy that free space that's left in here, and it'll allow us to push down the rest of this fruit and add more berries to the top of it. Pectic enzyme breaks down pectin, produces sugar. So we're going to get some extra sugar out of this, and we're also, more importantly, going to extract the juices. The next step after doing this is to make a sugar syrup that we use this as a base. So we're going to make a simple syrup, and we're going to add this fruit into it and do a flash pasteurization to add this as a sugar syrup addition into our secondary. We're going to be continuing on with our blueberry lemon cider. We have our wonderful blueberries here that have been cold macerating at about 38 degrees Fahrenheit with some pectic enzyme. They have been cold macerating for 2 weeks, and we're going to go ahead and transfer our blueberries into our measuring cup over here and see how much juice we got extracted. And then with this brew bag, we're going to go ahead and mash the rest of them and try and extract as much juice as possible. So the process is very simple for this. We open up our blueberries. We throw all the blueberries through this nut milk bag, or this brewing bag, not really nut milk bag. And then we're going to see how much juice we got extracted, and we're going to mash the rest of this. It's looking like we got just over a half a cup of juice out of these. So we're going to go ahead and pour this into here to keep track of all the juice we got extracted. And now we're going to go ahead and mash the rest of this. Just using a potato masher here. We're trying to squeeze all of that blueberry juice out of here. There should be, we used just over a pound of blueberries, and on average, a pound of blueberry, well, 15 pounds of a fruit produces 1 gallon of a juice. So if we do a little bit of conversion, we can get that this should produce just over a cup of blueberry juice. And then we're going to be combining that with a simple syrup that'll be used for our back sweetening. And when you look at that, it is just under a cup of blueberry juice. So I'm going to mash this just a little bit more to get all the rest of that juice out. All right, let's see if I get slightly over a cup out of that now. That's looking a little bit better. That looks like slightly more than a cup. For those mathematically inclined, we're targeting about 16 fifteenths of a cup of blueberry juice output if we're doing that ideal extraction ratio. Obviously, this is the real world. We don't have ideal extractions, but hey, that's pretty darn close if you ask me. I'm going to go ahead and measure the specific gravity of our juice. Our juice is coming in at 1.060 specific gravity. So pretty good extraction of sugars from this. Next, we're going to make a simple syrup. The ratios for a simple syrup are 1 volume of sugar and 1 volume of water. So it would be 1 cup of sugar in this instance and then 1 cup of water to make a simple syrup. Adding 1 cup of sugar, or 200 grams of sugar, and adding 1 cup of water, or 200 grams of water. We're going to allow this to come to a simmer, and then we're going to pasteurize our blueberry juice for about 10 minutes at 150 degrees. So now, because we're at over 160 degrees, we're going to add our blueberry juice. Should lower the temperature of this dramatically. We're aiming for 150 degrees for 10 minutes, or 160 degrees for 5 minutes. We're basically just trying not to cook those pectins. We are sitting pretty at 150 degrees, so we're just going to let this sit for a few minutes. The final gravity of our syrup here is 1.150. We're going to go ahead and put this juice syrup into a tank. And our 1 can of apple juice concentrate. Now it's time for the fun part. We get to rack our cider into our keg. So we have our racking, our auto siphon in here. Gonna put it slightly into the liquid, pull out, and then push in, and you should see flow immediately start. After that, we can just go ahead and set it down to the bottom, let it go. I just want to take a second to see how wonderfully crystal clear this cider is that's coming out of here. Absolutely beautiful. Look at that wonderful crystal clear cider coming out of this fermenter. As we're approaching the end of the cider in our secondary fermenter, we're going to go ahead and monitor our keg down here, make sure that it's not overfilling. As soon as we get to the point where it looks like it's too full, we're going to go ahead and lift this out of the liquid to stop the flow. We had enough cider extra to make a bottle of cider that's just completely dry. I like to do this because, well, it's one of my friends likes completely dry cider, so I just say, hey, have a bottle. So I went ahead and copied over all the information that we have here on our fermenting of this blueberry lemon cider. It's important to note that take good notes if you're making a recipe for the first time so you can reproduce it. Including everything, including the yeast. It all makes a difference whenever you're making a cider. So I have good notes over here. The full recipe, once again, will be in the description. This is going to be put into a kegerator at 38 degrees and about 15 pounds to produce a roughly 2.5 atmospheres of pressure. And that will carbonate over 2 weeks. So it's gonna be nice slow carbonate. I don't prefer burst carbonating to slow carbonating. It's, yes, it is a personal preference, but I believe the actual head you get out of it, the nice, smooth, silky head you get out of it, is better if you do a longer carbonation at the correct pressure rather than doing a quick burst carbonate. You kind of just get this foam everywhere. So that's what it's going to do. We'll check back in 2 weeks and we'll do a final tasting. Hello everybody, welcome back. Today is our tasting that we are performing for our Blueberry Lemon Cider. It's been about 2 months. It is currently the 1st of July, and we're going to go ahead and give this Blueberry Lemon Cider a try. This has been pressurized inside the kegerator at about 12 to 13 psi for 2 weeks to make it around 2 to 2.5 atmospheres of pressure because it was at 38 degrees. So that's the carbonation level of this. It has a nice good kind of pétillant type of sparkle to this. And coming out of the tap, it has a lot of head, but the head kind of just dissipates quickly. So the remaining head is pretty much non-existent inside this cider. Coming from a color perspective, the color on this is pretty nice. It is what I would call clear. I can not see any sort of thing that's interacting with the light within the glass, but it is very deep. This reddish kind of reddish purple color. So, anyway, let's give this a smell. Right up front, it has a very kind of light blueberry smell. Lemon's not really coming through, but I am getting the apple to come through. All right, let's do a taste. So right off the bat, initially, you get blueberry, but not like sweet blueberry, kind of like mostly the tannins of the blueberry. It's this cider did finish at medium dry, so that's kind of if you had medium dry cider before, you kind of can expect that's what the overall sweetness level of this is. You're not getting that punchy like sweet blueberry, but you are getting a lot of that blueberry essence, if I would to say that. So the blueberry flavor is very prominent in this. This is blueberry. That's on the front end. On the back end, though, you kind of get those appley notes kind of wash over the back of your palate as the this is particularly high in tannin, as blueberry cider, in my opinion, should be. So it kind of just like clings to the back of your throat and your entire palate and has that like washing over sensation that you would have for something with high tannins. It has a lot of presence. Like even as I'm talking right now, it still is coating my mouth and having that nice longevity. But it's not thick. This is a very, when I would describe the body of this is very medium bodied. It has a bit of presence to it, but it's not something that would be heavy and kind of overwhelming like the pineapple cider that I had. Excuse me. While the pineapple cider is a very good cider in my opinion, it's kind of like a 1 or 2, and then you're done. This one could be very much sessionable. So, so that was the first tasting note. Let me give it a second longer taste. So the prominent acid here is citric acid, and it is present. The citric acid addition that we did as an adjustment, very useful. I would highly recommend that continue to use the citric acid because it really does kind of make that lemony note pop there. The lemon flavor of this is the predominant acid flavor. It is acid, citric acid, but it is mainly lemon, and you kind of get that via both the citrus peel addition, the citric acid addition, and the lemon juice that was added to this. All of that increased the total acid of this and caused it to be more of a lemony type of forward flavor. So I think that if I were to revise this recipe, I would make it so that when we do our last back sweetening, I would probably double the amount of simple syrup quantity to make this just a hair into the medium sweetness range. I think that would probably carry well with the blueberry flavor. Not saying that the blueberry flavor here is off, It's just when people taste blueberry, they're wanting typically to have that kind of sweet blueberry, and having something more on the dry side, it can be a little bit, not what people expect. But I think that flavor-wise, the blueberry is really punching here, and it's kind of it's very nice, and it balances quite well with the other flavors here, the apple and the lemon in particular. This is a relatively good cider, and definitely something I'm going to be sharing with friends and putting it towards competition for the homebrew competition next year. So, cheers. And happy cidering.